Pacers finally score some points and lose by 24. The Jazz score 152 points. Oh, boy. A mess of a defensive game from the Pacers. They are 1-10. Yes, 1-10. So much to get to on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin, and today, holy smokes, the Pacers did it. They put the ball in the basket. They dominated the possession battle. All right, success. They changed their starting five. Signs of the times. They know what they need to do to win. Oh, wait. Sorry, they lost by 24 with all of that happening. They go into Utah. They start off awesome. Things are clicking. Andrew Nembhard's hitting shots, and the Jazz win by 24. The Pacers give up 152 points. What on earth happened on defense? Why did they change their starting lineup? Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is back. The Pacers have new jerseys. There's a new all-star format in the NBA. Holy cow, this is going to be a busy episode. Okay, look, starting without talking about defense is just disrespectful to the game that was just played by the Pacers, which is unfortunate because not unfortunate, which is just like frustrating to me because I've been the whole season saying a lot is obviously wrong. Health is a problem, but if they just make some shots, they'll win. They shot their best percentage of the season in this game. The only time they shot over 44% this year, they won. Tonight in Utah, the Pacers shot 46.5% from the field. Great, season high. Turnovers, a big thing for the Pacers. They had 22 against the Warriors 2 days ago. They had 8 today, season low, first time under 10. Offense was there. Feels like all the stuff that people have been saying, including me, okay, if they did this and that, they'd look a little better, be back on track, be themselves. They scored 128 in this game. They scored 135 against OKC, but that obviously was a double overtime game. Their second highest was 115. There it is. The offensive game that everybody's been saying is possible. They saw in the preseason. They've seen them do it without Haliburton in years past. It's possible. McConnell's back. He's floating in shots. Like that felt like it could have been the story, especially early in this game. If you watched it, you know what the first 5 minutes felt like. And the Pacers got absolutely smoked in this game, like destroyed. It was never close after the start of the game. The Jazz just ripped them apart. The Jazz double-digit lead happened in the middle of the second quarter. The Pacers were up 20-10 and 10-0, and they were down double digits from the middle of the second quarter till the game ended. Like they got destroyed because the Jazz scored. It felt like they didn't actually, but it felt like every single trip the Jazz scored. The Utah Jazz in this game, 55.4% from the field. That's obviously very good. That's barely better than the Hawks shot against the Pacers earlier this season. The Jazz in this game, 14 assists, comfortable number, 45-35 win on the glass. They made 31 of their 35 free throws. They made 19 of their 42 three-point attempts. The Pacers could not stop them. And going into this game, outside of the Nets, this was the second worst team. I guess the Mavs ended up being that, but didn't feel like it when they played them, that the Pacers have played this season. These teams are only 2 spots in the rankings apart in net rating. The Pacers had the 7 spots ahead lead on defense, and then they were just terrible today. The Jazz, 28th and three-point percentage entering this game. I've set the scene way too much. What on earth just happened? Pathetic defense. Pathetic, putrid, awful, whatever word you think, and many of you are going to be like, that's not even harsh enough. And you're right. It's not. Like, there isn't a word to describe how bad it was. This was the 7th time ever that the Pacers have given up 150 points in a game. It's obviously way more common now. 5 of the 7 times in Pacers franchise history they've done it. It's been since 2021. Regardless, they only have won one of those games ever, that insane in-season tournament Hawks game. All the rest, they lose, and they lose by a lot, as they did in this game. What did they guard well? Nothing. The answer is nothing, right? Here's what it felt like to me. Every possession, the Jazz had somebody, and particularly not even threatening somebody's at times. Isaiah Collier, Keontae George, sometimes Ace Bailey, sometimes Lyle Markkanen, like getting into the paint or like trying to get into the paint. And that's thing one. Guard your yard, keep your man out of the paint. The Pacers had some kind of goofy matchups at times. Nembhard was on Markkanen. Robinson-Earl was on Markkanen. He's been a matchup difficulty for the Pacers for forever. Siakam got reps on him, obviously, but they couldn't keep anybody out of the paint. So thing one is the Jazz are just at the basket a lot. Those are very easy shots. Points in the paint, the Jazz scored 60. in this game, despite not even hitting, it felt like that many twos. They only hit 32 twos in this game, and they had 60 points in the paint. So they basically never made a mid-range shot. They were right at the basket all the time. And so when the Pacers would collapse or try to protect the rim a little better, they started Tony Bradley at the 5. Isaiah Jackson plays 23 minutes. Jay Huff's been blocking stuff all year. He plays a little bit. They couldn't do that. But if they did collapse and they had enough paint pressure to make the Jazz kick it out, okay, shooters are open and very open. Ace Bailey hits half of his 8 threes. Larry Markkinen goes 5 for 7 from deep. Svi Mikhailuk goes 3 for 5 from deep. Bryce Sensabaugh goes 4 of 9 from deep. They weren't guarding anything well. And it wasn't even like, I felt like at least, complicated Jazz stuff. It wasn't like there was a specific one. I just talked about Markkinen, I guess, a little bit. It wasn't like there was a specific one set thing that the Jazz just are so good at that the Pacers couldn't contain. It didn't feel like there was one matchup that like sucked the gravity of the floor. Even when players were struggling in individual moments with Markkinen, he had 35 points. It didn't feel like it was like shape-shifting the gravity of how the Pacers were defending him at all. They just were slow. They were slowed on their rotations to the basket. They were slow on their closeouts to get out to these shooters. Their assignments, just they couldn't do anything to get a stop in this game, right? And this is not a thing that's been a problem for the Pacers a lot this season. They entered the day 17th in defensive rating. That's still below average, but I'm not praising them for being average. I'm just saying that's the side of the floor that's felt safer for them this season. They've at least guarded to a credible degree at times. Right? They've only had 2 teams shoot above 47% this season. Like they defend, that's a high number to be clear, but like they've defended okay. They forced a lot of turnovers. They foul like crazy. That's a huge problem. And they did that a lot in this game. 35 free throws for the Jazz. It was a free throw heavy game. The Pacers 29 themselves. Regardless, I very rarely feel like defense is what loses a game for the Pacers. I felt like that twice this season, one full game when they got beat by the Hawks. And that one was very obvious immediately to me. Dyson Daniels, right to the cup, easy peasy. Jalen Johnson just kind of jogs in. They throw him a pass, he scores. And I'm like, oh, they're just not going to stop them all night, right? Denver, the second half of the Denver game, I felt like, yep, the defense is a problem here. That's it. Other than that, I've been like, yeah, it's an offense thing. And this was the worst team by far they've played, where I was like, oh, man, their defense is just awful and is the problem in this game. I can't really point to one defensive player that I thought, man, they nailed it and they got let down by the rest of their team. And they started Nembhard, great defender. Nesmith, great defender. Siakam, good to great defender. Robinson-Earl started. We'll talk about the starting lineup change later, but he's been like a pesky defender for this team. And Tony Bradley, old reliable, who's like a little slow-footed and has matchup issues, but is uniquely good at defending Yusuf Nurkic. I would say of any center on their team, Nurkic still was pretty effective in this game. Like they tried a defensive group. And honestly, at first, that particular 5 was defending okay. When they started to mix and match, like right when the bench came in, Jazz scored 4 points, timeout Pacers. And that like never really stopped from a bleeding perspective. For example, Jarris Walker's -20. That's the worst of anybody on the team. All the bench guys have worse plus minuses than the starters because that group, which by the way, they just played Golden State 2 days before. And I said, wow, like part of the reason the Pacers were ahead in the third quarter and it felt decent that night is their bench defense was really good. And they obviously changed up the unit. Isaiah Jackson and Walker were with it instead. But like that was a thing. And McConnell played in this game. Their bench defense was atrocious in this game. And even the starters were not good, to be clear. But they never had a group on the floor that could stop the Jazz at all. At all. And the Jazz are not a good shooting team. They entered 28th in three-point percentage, 1 percentage point ahead of the Pacers entering on the season. The Pacers were at 29.8%, which was 29th. The Jazz were at 30.8%, which was 28th. These teams were equivalent level shooting. Pacers go 10 for 37. That's about at their season average, which is crazy. Jazz go 19 for 42, which is well above theirs, and just never stopped. It was truly awful. It was truly awful. Everything that you could sometimes dissect as a defensive issue in a game this season happened in this game. Can't guard your man, can't rotate well, don't identify the rotations, slow to the rim, fouling like crazy. They actually forced an okay amount of turnovers, but not enough to overcome that. It's not even close. They're 1-10. They have 2.5 defensive losses in that 10. Their offense was finally good enough. This was the first time that I was like, if they get that every night, they can win. And they lost by 24. That hurts. That hurts the vibe of a team, I think, because not only did it happen where you finally get over the hump that you know is in your way, making shots, playing like a cohesive offensive team, and you get destroyed by a crummy team and a team that last year, the Jazz were up 10 plus in both games against the Pacers, and the Pacers came back and won. They couldn't even get close to doing that. That hurts. Like being one in look, this is how athletes are. Like losing hurts. They've lost 10 of their 11 games. And this one, I think, particularly is going to be oh man, keep an eye on the vibes kind of loss. Because that is a painful way to lose. They looked helpless. They truly looked helpless. Frustration moments from Aaron Nesmith, who, granted, is a very passionate player, but like it doesn't really come out in frustration very often. Ugly, ugly stuff. Some more ugly things from this game. Why'd they change their starting five? They re-signed Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. We'll empty the notebook as we do. This is what Locked On Pacers is and how we talk about games. Let's talk about the starting lineup change and so much more coming up here on Locked On Pacers. Before we do that, we got to talk about two groups of people. First up is FanDuel. The NBA is back. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks and so much more. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, even in some cases makes it more exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets. How about that? When your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let me also tell you about BILT. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where BILT comes in. They're changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through BILT, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But BILT is not just about rent. It's about rewarding the entire neighborhood around you. You can do so many things with BILT that work for you. You're earning points every month on something you already have to pay. So whether you're grabbing food at your local restaurants or heading to the gym, you're earning rewards, and BILT has made everyday life feel more rewarding. From your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's JOINBILT.com/LockedOnNBA. Make sure you use that link so they know that we sent you. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. The number one sports podcast network here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure Locked On Jazz is your second listen. We're David Locke, who's in the arena. We'll tell you about the Jazz scoring 1 billion points and talk about two things the Jazz will be happy about. Obviously, their veterans playing well for either the Jazz winning games or their trade value, and their young guys looking great. Ace Bailey looked good. Keontae George was passing. Collier was really passing. Sensabaugh made shots. Kyle Filipowski's just a tough guy to guard. A lot of good stuff from the Jazz young men in this game. The other thing about this Pacers game that stood out to me personally, this is very niche, but is like something I've been at least tracking to wonder about this team's psyche and ability. Every game in their first 10 games followed one of two scripts. One was kind of choppy back and forth game, Pacers late surge, clutch time game, and they lost all those but the Warriors game. But that happened 7 times. 8 times? 7 times. Yes, 7 of their 10 games were that, where they were in it late, and it was crunch time. And like 3 of them could have gone the other way. And then 3 of their first 10 games were good first half. They're in it. They're within a possession in the third quarter, down 3 to Memphis, right there against Atlanta, Golden State in Golden State. They were winning, and then they just fall apart in the third quarter. Denver, they really fell apart in the third quarter, right? So they had either fall apart in the third quarter games or they're in it till the end. And so I kept wondering in this Jazz game if they'd ever punch back like they have in a lot of these games. They're down 11 at halftime, right? They can manage that. No, this is a new formula too. That's another think about the vibes thing with this team, right? You've seen the way they play. You've seen when the wheels fall off and how it happens, or if they get back into it. Neither of those today. Again, the Jazz are not that good, and they just destroyed the Pacers. Okay, a couple things that happened. One, they re-signed Jeremiah Robinson-Earl and this is relevant because he started in the game. They re-signed him to a 10-day hardship. I mentioned that it would be expiring yesterday, and that I didn't think they could re-sign him because I thought they might not be eligible for a hardship. The fact that they are means, by the way, Johnny Furphy's probably out for 2 weeks plus, at least the next 10 days, because he, I believe, has to be tied to this signing to have the second hardship be even available to them, because Cody Martin also has a hardship, and they only have 5 standard contract players out. I'm not going to explain it too much, but you're probably not going to see Johnny Furphy for a bit. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl's played well, though. It's good to have him back if you're the Pacers, and he started the game. And you know what? It happened, and I was like, you know what? I get it. And I'm not saying I get it because he's been his long-term future, less important than Jarris's. They just decided in Golden State when they rested Siakam. Long-term thinking is mattering to them, right? We know that. They're 1-10. Obviously, the long-term is more important than the short-term. That's no fun to say. It's only for this season, but still. And then they immediately turned to Jeremiah Robinson-Earl in the starting five. And he's played well, no doubt. I've talked about that. I thought he's been good at everything but making shots for this Pacers team. That's obviously very important on a team that nobody can make shots, but 7 rebounds a game at his size, solid defense. And tonight, starting 2 for 4, 4 boards, 3 assists, no turnovers. He's just a solid wing, right? He's a solid player. It makes sense to keep him. I don't have to explain that part to you. They started him, and they started Tony Bradley over Isaiah Jackson. Whoa! 40% of the starting lineup gets changed. Nesmith back, Siakam back. So it's Nembhard, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Nesmith, Siakam, and Tony Bradley. So it could be a matchup thing. I have not read the stories from Utah yet. I have not texted my good friend Justin Dopirak, who's at the game, to say, what did Rick say about this? I have no idea what was said. So I might be missing what actually happened, but I would like to opine on this, because one thing is, obviously it could be matchup based. This is a thing that they would do. Tony Bradley is uniquely qualified to be their best center against a guy like Yusuf Nurkic, in a way that, like, for example, when they play Mark Williams on Thursday, Isaiah Jackson would be better against Mark Williams. But they also went to Jeremiah Robinson-Earl over Jarris Walker. And Jarris Walker is better with guys who've created advantages for him. Like if you're with the Pacers second unit, you're playing with McConnell and Nembhard, or McConnell and Siakam, or whatever. Maybe you get more chances to do that. But honestly, I just think Robinson-Earl's been a little better than Jarris of late, even though Walker's future is more important, right? Future, long-term, you'd start Jarris. Honestly, if you made me pitch the, like, why is this their best 5 right now, like they're trying it, is because I think it's been their most consistent 5 players. Granted, we've seen all of 2.5 games of Andrew Nembhard before they played the Jazz, but Tony Bradley, every time he plays, you know what you're getting from him. You know what you're getting from Nesmith. You know what you're getting from Siakam. Honestly, all 3 of the non-new starters, you know what you're getting from them. Tony Bradley has easily been their most consistent center, right? Over Jackson and Huff. Jackson has the highest 1 game and peak so far. Huff had that great game last week against Brooklyn. I can't remember what his great game was, where he actually made the shots, right? That's happened, but Bradley's been the consistent one. Robinson-Earl, think about the other wings. Cody Martin, Talon Peter, Ben Shepherd, Jarris Walker. They were all available for this game. Do you think any of them have been more consistent than Jeremiah Robinson-Earl? I don't. And then they can't start McConnell or Dennis or Morris because of the other guys on the floor. Amazingly, that was their most consistent starting 5. I don't think they'll stick with it. I think they'll either get back to Jarris in there or a younger center. And by that, I mean Isaiah Jackson in their starting 5. But it's possible if they're looking for any sort of rotational consistency, especially with McConnell back, their bench is reforming. Maybe they do. But they spent all of camp developing McConnell with other guys. They spent all of camp developing Jackson with other guys. I do wonder what this was. I get why they could have done it for basketball reasons and Jazz reasons, but they did not. I mentioned the JRE 10-day already. Before we unload the notebook of the game, new jerseys for the Pacers that they debuted in this game. Unfortunate debut game because they are gorgeous. I love these. I'm usually a hater of alternate uniforms that have like goofier colors or anything. This is good Pacer branding, good looking kit. I really like it. I love the court. I will not get to see it in person in the first game, unfortunately. But people want to hear what I have to say about these things, and I love it. This is very good. The royal blue is great. Also, the NBA announced all-star voting, which for the Pacers might not matter at all if they're this bad, but it's going to be a USA World game. Wow, out of nowhere. And if there's less than 8 World All-Stars, Adam Silver will add more. And if there's less than 16 USA All-Stars, Adam Silver will add more to make the concept work. And there's still going to be 12 players from each conference. So I guess the Pacers do have a chance if they actually turn things around. But that is the starters. That is the news of the NBA. That is Jeremiah Robinson-Earl's 10-day. Now let's unload the notebook on every player. The early start to the game going well. TJ McConnell is back. Jarris Walker again appearing too many times in my notes. And Jay Huff did some stuff that was both interesting and kind of not great. Okay, that's all coming up here to close out today's Locked On Pacers. Everybody, we need to quickly talk about Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no at Mint Mobile. Their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. You can say yes to making the switch and get premium wireless for $15 a month. How about that? Mint makes it simple. All plans come with a high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same numbers and contacts. You get the same quality of service you had before, but for a fraction of the price. The setup is super easy. You keep your number, and you're running in minutes. Are you ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Upfront payment, $45 required, the equivalent of $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow up 35 gigs on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for more details. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Appreciate all of you who listen every day, my everydayers. I always reference things I said in the past, and you guys actually know about it. Okay, your second listen today, by the way, should be probably Locked On Sixers. They're hooping. They just had a clutch win against the Celtics. I had no idea where to rank the Sixers, but if you told me VJ Edgecombe would have been good, I would have said, yeah, they'd be decent, and they're quite good. Tyrese Maxey's playing a gazillion minutes. Locked On Sixers, we'll have more on all of that. Okay, Pacers Jazz. Let's unload the notebook, starting with, of course, the start of the game and when it felt like this starting five might actually look pretty good and why this game was so jarring. I actually was talking to my wife before the game. I said, I think they have a good chance in this one. Like, the Jazz are not particularly good. They're going to be fiery. They just rested guys. They started up 10-0, 10-0. Andrew Nembhard had 8 of those points. He ran and dunked. Andrew Nembhard dunked, then hit 2 threes. Then the Jazz scored, 3 points, 5 points, whatever. And then Nembhard scores again. Siakam gets to the line. Tony Bradley hit a mid-range shot. That was another if he's in that, they're going to win. Aaron Nesmith hits a 3. Jazz take a timeout. It's 20-10. Their offense looked awesome to start the game. And it wasn't just that they were scoring. Obviously, Nembhard's making threes. Actually, Nembhard, I misspoke. Nembhard made 2 threes, and then he made, somebody posted this in a reply to me, and I thought it was perfect. He made the patented Andrew Nembhard 2.5-point shot where it looks like a 3, and then they go back and review it, and his big toes on the line. That's a 2. Regardless, that happened as well. He was hitting jumpers. Siakam was getting to the cup. And then Tony Bradley, he's guarding Yusuf Nurkic on the first possession. Perfect defense. Uses his size, makes it tough on him on the inside, gets him frustrated. That's what Tony Bradley can be good at in these kind of moments. And they forced Keontae George to turn it over. They had a second turnover that I can't find in the play-by-play right now, apparently, because I'm all over the place. The start was good. They started the game very well with the new starting 5. That is generally a sign that I was like, oh, this lineup will work. And then it didn't. It wasn't bad. It was among their best lineups of the game, which is, dinging with faint praise in this particular instance. But, it felt like, again, for a second, oh, okay, they potentially found something here. That lineup, Siakam, Bradley, Nembhard, Nesmith, Robinson-Earl, was +3 in 16 minutes, right? They did good stuff. Some of that came early in the fourth quarter because Carlisle kept them on the floor down the stretch, chasing the 20-point deficit, and they chipped into it a little bit, but still, the Jazz had their good players on the floor still. It wasn't like a joke. Those players played well together, but it looked like that start was going to be the augur of something way more than it was. Okay, TJ McConnell returned. I can't believe I haven't talked about that yet, but a million things happened in this game that were more important to talk about. Only playing in the first half. They do not want him to re-aggravate that hamstring, like Quentin Jackson did. Quentin Jackson has re-aggravated a hamstring thing. I'm not comparing the injuries. That's just a reality thing that happened. McConnell looked great. Got in the paint. Took 12 shots that are very TJ McConnell shots, made 6 of them. His passing was he only had 1 assist. A lot of his passes were much shorter, I would say, than the typical TJ McConnell pass. He would nash out from the lane and then just kind of flip it to a teammate right by him. I'm not sure if that's because it's not a unit he's used to or a unit that is used to him. Whatever. You didn't feel the passing stuff as much from McConnell, but the scoring was fantastic. 12 points in less than 12 minutes is huge. They really need that kind of scoring punch with the bench that they have. Him and Shepherd synergy is a huge deal. They got some easy baskets. I can't find these in my notes right now. He got in the paint, which for his first time he got in the paint, it opened up space for a Jarris Walker drive. And then the very next one, it did the same thing for Ben Shepherd. Shepherd scored on that drive, right? The McConnell-Shepherd synergy is going to be a thing. It was last year as well. He was quite good, right? He was scoring. He was cooking guys. He closed that. It was him and Nembhard at one point in the first quarter with Walker, Siakam, and Jackson. Carlisle's going to love that lineup. It's just good to have him back for the Pacers. 1, so they can play 2 point guards at the same time. But 2, you saw how his drives opened the floor for other guys to drive, not even for shots. Shepherd and Walker on the first 2 drives, McConnell had benefited from it quite a bit. Nembhard, I thought, was great offensively in this game, getting to his spots, 9 for 15, 3 for 6 from deep. Making your shots will do that. He also had 7 assists and only 1 turnover. Aaron Nesmith, by the way, 7 assists. 25 and 7. Obviously, 5 fouls is a lot, but with only 1 turnover, that's a really nice Andrew Nembhard game. And he was still getting to his spots, not comically easily, but pretty easily. The elbow jumpers, the 3s he's capable of, getting actually to the cup a few times in this game. His scoring has looked pretty good as he's gotten more reps in these recent games. They need that to be contagious to the rest of the team because this was their first good offensive game maybe of the entire season. But he's been good scoring the ball and actually adding some offensive punch. 7 assists on a Pacers team that can't make anything this season is like actually a remarkably impressive feat. I've already said 2 good things in this segment, but credit to Nembhard and McConnell for playing well. Good point guard play will go a long way for this team on offense. As you saw in this game, they needed to also happen on defense. But crazy that Aaron Nesmith was my next note was that he was leading at the time the team in assists with 4. But he was 1 for 4. He continues to struggle from deep. He was 4 for 9 in this game, but I think at one point he was much worse than that. He started 1 for 5 or 1 for 6 before really getting it going. And it's like, watch them back. I might do this from this game. I very rarely do this. I'm just going to post a screenshot of where Aaron Nesmith shot it on a missed 3. And then you'll see that there's not even a defender like who could, tell him a secret. They're so far away. They couldn't even high five him. And he misses all of them. Like it's shots he totally makes all the time. He just couldn't make them in this game until late when it was decidedly out of reach. Okay, the bad notes really are focused on 2 players. Huff and Bradley played together, and they're kind of limited on what they can do at the 4. I mean, when Robinson-Earl starts next to Siakam, their backup forwards are Jarris, who's playing backup 3, and Cody Martin, who barely played in this game. He played about 5 minutes. Maybe they could have gone to Martin instead. They tried Huff at the 4 next to a big. Again, this was the first time I think when they've actually had available forwards that they've done that. They played him a lot with Bradley. The first possession in the game, they're like, Jay Huff is coming around a screen and taking a 3 on the move. And I'm like, okay, Jay Huff made 3s before the season, but he has not shot well enough that is something that should be happening. Like that was a very, very perplexing thing to me. And then, just the way he is, like I don't think Jay Huff stinks. Like he blocks shots every game. I know he can shoot. He hasn't shot for this team, but I know he can. But if he's not making shots, his just slow-footed nature just really stands out on this team. Like he might be slower than Tony Bradley. He's got to start making shots and not shots on the move. They haven't found the spot for him yet to fit in. And I know he can be better than he's played, but he has not played well. My other negative notes on an individual, second game in a row, Jarris Walker. Oh boy. On to the bench he goes, and you wonder if that's going to be motivating in any way or how that conversation went down when Jeremiah Robinson-Earl gets his spot. And after last game, where he was just bad at everything, right? You think he might be laser focused or whatever, and he just was still a little like la-di-da. He was thinking so much, right? I'm not saying he was la-di-da like he wasn't focused. I do think he was focused. I think he was la-di-da and like he had that, there it is, his token. There's the pass, he reads it. There's Pascal Siakam just firing a bounce pass. Just throw it in hard. And he just kind of low, slow pass, turnover. Okay, there's Monte Morris over there, the point guard. Throw him the ball over to your left. And he just launches it out of bounds. It's like, what is that? You can do it. You're reading the game perfectly. He's got a good feel for the read, and he just can't get the ball from him to the next thing. 3 turnovers in this game. Obviously, it's easy to pick on a guy having a bad night when he goes 1 for 8. His make came with 1:14 to go in the game. He got to the foul line 9 times. He does deserve credit for that. He had 11 points on 8 shots despite going 1 for 8. But he's just, when you 0 for 6 with 3 turnovers and it feels like you're thinking too much and your defense hasn't been impactful this season, there just has to be more in there from him. And I did think he had a couple drives this game where he did the thing I think he should. Take another dribble, get closer to the cup. That's how he drew some contact. That was good. The 9 free throws were good, but just there's so many pieces of his game that you can see that he's like identifying what he's supposed to do and doesn't do it. Or like, I don't think it's a can't do it thing because I've seen him do it sometimes. I don't quite understand why the inconsistency is there. Like he was awesome against Dallas. He's had good games this season, but these 2 in a row have not been particularly good. I think he will be better at times, but this was not a good one. This was not a good one for Jarris Walker. They play the Suns on Thursday. We'll talk Pacers Suns after that game. Tomorrow's going to be a fun one. I want to do this as a series this season. I should have done it before the Pacers played the Mavs, but it was so early in the season, there wasn't really a good time to fit it in. I want to talk to Locked On hosts of teams that were recently in the finals to talk about what the season after felt like, things that the Pacers will, or maybe not in their case right now, face. The Suns lost in the 2021 finals. What did that feel like the following season for the Suns? So that will be tomorrow's show, and we'll do that with, I talked to Justin Garcia about Bucks injuries and such. We'll do that with many teams of the finals of this decade. Thank you guys for listening today. Hope you enjoyed the show. You can find me on social media at Tony R. Reese and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. Back tomorrow talking more about the Pacers via the eyes of the Suns. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you very soon.